Many of them have been around for 7, 8, even 10 years. They built their business on word of mouth, friends and family, relationships with realtors, relationships. The website is beautiful. The projects are professionally photographed. But then behind the scenes, they're not doing any consistent business development. They're not consistently networking, consistently doing social media. One month they might put up 4 social media posts, and another month they completely skip it. And that lack of consistency, they never had to be consistent because they were doing so well with word of mouth.
Welcome to the Interior Design Her podcast, real-world business education for interior designers. In today's episode of the Interior Design Her podcast, I'm speaking with Daniela Furtado, founder of FINDABLE Digital Marketing, about making your interior design firm findable on Google, ChatGPT, or Perplexity. Most interior designers have built their businesses mainly based on word of mouth and referrals. The website looks beautiful, the photography is professional, but there's no consistent marketing happening behind the scenes. During our chat, Daniela explains why a pretty portfolio without strategic content won't rank on Google or ChatGPT. She reveals how top interior designers balance beautiful design with the keyword-rich content that both SEO and GEO algorithms need to find you. If your gorgeous portfolio gets compliments but not enough clients, this conversation could help you transform your approach. Let's get to it.
Hey, Daniela. Welcome back to the podcast. Maybe not everybody caught our earlier conversation. So can I get you to tell us a little bit about yourself and about FINDABLE Digital Marketing?
Yeah, thanks for having me again. So my name is Daniela. I'm a consultant, writer, and speaker on all things digital marketing for interior designers and architects. I've got a digital marketing agency. We're a small but mighty team of 5, and we help interior design firms increase their online presence, but also their inquiries. We've got a track record of doubling inquiries for clients through SEO, social media, email newsletters, and having a holistic marketing strategy.
Okay. So for some designers I've spoken with, the past year has been slower than they would like, and making themselves findable, obviously, is something that's very important. How do you help interior designers become findable?
I think it really starts with having a clear positioning. Trying to be everything to everyone makes it really difficult to do marketing. So one of the first things we challenge interior designers to do when we work together is define your focus. Do you want to grow the commercial side or the residential side of your business? Do you want to grow in Toronto or Calgary or a specific suburb? And even within residential and commercial, that's still quite broad. And so narrowing it down, that's really the key. In other words, define your target audience. And then from there, we work backwards to optimize you for Google, figuring out what the keywords people are searching for that specific service or target audience, and then creating content that reinforces that. Not just blog posts, because that's what people typically think of when I say SEO content, but not just blog posts, also portfolio pieces, so your service page, social media content, video content, anything that we can reinforce your target audience, your niche, your focus, your specialization, whatever you want to call it.
In our previous conversation, the reason I had you on at that point was because I really liked how you handled designers' portfolio pages, how it wasn't just a series of beautiful images. There was story behind it. And recently you did a LinkedIn post, which got me super excited, on Zoe Feldman's new website launch. And I'll let you talk about it without me rambling on.
Yeah. Actually, speaking of the portfolio storytelling, since we last spoke, we've had a few more clients really like the idea and given us the creative reins or the trust to redo their portfolio. And I can send you some examples to you and your audience to check out of how we approach portfolios through a storytelling or case study lens. And And Zoe Feldman does that. Zoe Feldman, I think, is super interesting because she's already a leader in the industry. She's a top designer in the US. She had already a pretty effective website aesthetically and for, sales function. And then she completely redid it. And it makes you think a lot about the standard when it comes to digital marketing and website design in this space. And she's really practicing what a lot of designers preach, which is balancing form and function, not just prioritizing a pretty website, but making sure it's strategic. And I think that's what this new website does.
Okay. So like you said, I mean, established designer, good career. Was her old website bad, or like what did you find wrong that you wanted to change?
Yeah, it was a beautiful website. It was well branded, had beautiful photos. It was clear, but it was very minimalist. It had very little copy. So trying to rank for keywords is quite challenging when you don't have a lot of copy or keywords to begin with. Her portfolio did not tell stories. It was just a photo gallery. So you had to guess kind of what she did. You had no idea. Did she just furnish the place or was it a full gut renovation? Her about page, for example, didn't list her entire team. It was just her. And she didn't have ongoing content. I think towards the end, she did launch a blog post or a blog series, but it should have a lot of contents. And because I'm a nerd and I spend so much time looking at the back end of websites, I did realize that she had these hidden pages targeting specific cities, like the suburbs of DC, Bethesda, Chevy Chase, Alexandria, and Virginia. And those pages targeted keywords. So like it would target the keyword interior designer Bethesda, but it was not visible from the navigation. It was a page that they created that was indexing on Google, but it was quote unquote hidden from the navigation. And they were ugly. Like they checked the algorithm, right? They did what the algorithm wanted to use those keywords, but they were not well designed. Now with this new website, she still has that beautiful design. It's well branded. She still has beautiful photos, but in summary, she's got more text. And when designers hear that, they're like, oh no, I love the minimalist design. I like the photos to speak for themselves. I don't want it to look stuffy and robotic and crowded with text. But Zoe, again, she applies design. And so she's got a hierarchy of text. She's got a mix of headings and subheadings, and she makes headings punchy and engaging, and she breaks it up with photos and illustrations. And so she's, as a leader, as an industry leader she's showing the industry how you can take the best practices that all the digital marketers are saying, but apply good design to it to make it make sense for interior designers.
Which is obviously easier said than done.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Are those pages, those sub pages, are they still hidden? Like, is that still an acceptable practice?
She's removed, well, on her site, she's removed it. It is an acceptable practice. It's not actually hidden. I'm trying to describe it in layman's terms. They're indexed. So if they're indexed, it doesn't mean that they're hidden. They're indexable pages. If you look at the back end, you can see them clearly. If I give you the URL, anybody can access them. They're simply just not listed in the main navigation menu.
Yeah, so it's hidden to the casual observer, but not hidden to the internet.
Exactly.
Okay, got it. Just wanted to be clear about that. I'm curious what the conversation would be like when she approached you. Like,
she didn't approach me. I want to say as a disclaimer, I do not work with Zoe Feldman. I'm simply
okay, sorry, that's my mistake. It's just an awesome example.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, that makes more sense. Because I mean, like, I've always appreciated the work you do for designers, and so when you started talking about that, I thought that was I'm like, well, it feels exactly like something you would do, which
Yeah,
it is something you would do, right?
it is exactly something I would do. And Shay McGee from Studio McGee is another example. I think I may have mentioned this in a previous conversation with you in the last podcast. Is these are like concepts that are the things that I'm talking about, right? Like using keywords on your website, talking about your team, telling the story behind your portfolio projects. Like these are not foreign. Like it's foreign to the industry, but they're not revolutionary. I'm not saying anything new. If I went to a marketing conference and I said this, everyone would look at me like, duh, that's like the ABCs. But in this industry, it's makes a lot of people feel uncomfortable. And so when I first started in this industry, one of the reasons why I wanted to specialize in this industry, because I saw there was an opportunity to make an impact and to change and apply these principles. But I didn't see a lot of people doing it. So I remember in the first couple of years, I would pitch a marketing strategy to an architect and I would show examples of what I wanted to do. But then they would say, but they're not architects or they're not designers. And I was like, well, yeah, but it still works. And they're like, well, can you show me examples of what my peers or my competitors would be doing? And that was a common objection. It was quite challenging to get people to buy in or to be on board. And then when I came across these industry leaders like Studio McGee or Zoe Feldman, it was a breath of fresh air because I finally had industry examples I could use that I could show people. And on top of that, they are exceptional at what they do. So there's even more credibility because then people go, oh, well, I love Studio McGee. I want to be like Studio McGee. And if that's what she's doing, then that's what I'll do. Now that's quite sad that it comes down to that. Like you have to copy other people in order to be open to new ideas. It's a little bit frustrating, but that's what it takes. That's why I keep using these case studies.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm assuming that a large part of that kind of mental block is due to the visual nature of what designers do. I mean, we see that like Instagram is far and away the largest social media platform for designers, and Instagram was designed for images. I mean, it's shifting more to video, but designers haven't taken to TikTok the way they've taken to Instagram. And so there may be a real kind of psychological aspect to that, right?
Yeah, I really think it's as humans, we like to think that we are different, that our tribe, our community, our type of people is unique and different. And sometimes we are, but more than often than not, we're pretty similar to one another. And we don't like change. Typically, we're very resistant to change. Although we're exceptionally adaptable creatures, we are resistant to change. And this is a service where it's very high priced, right? It's not cheap. We're not selling $20 t-shirts and tacos. It's extremely personal and customized. And our interior designers face a lot of distrust and objections when they're selling their services, right? People need a lot of trust in order to hire them. And so they apply that same sort of mentality to their own practices. It's just everything in this industry is so high risk. The stakes are always high. And so, taking a different approach, it's safer to do what everyone else is doing because, there's a blueprint, you know it works, and it's scarier to take risks. But if you want to stand out, if you want to be a leader, you have to take those risks.
Right. And I mean, if getting homeowners, potential clients to your website is like one of your major goals, right? Wherever they have found you from, whether it's word of mouth, whether it's social media, whether it's an article from something years ago, who knows? You want to get them to your website. Why? You have to remember that we're designing the website for the homeowner,
Right.
not the designer, and definitely not other designers. Who cares what they think about your website?
Yes, absolutely. And again, like I said, just because the other designers are not doing it doesn't mean that it doesn't work. Other businesses are doing it. It's working for them. Read any marketing book and you'll find these principles there. And we can talk about this later, but that's what's called boundary spanning. When you're willing to look beyond your own boundaries, your own comfort zone, and learn from other businesses. Like, it could even be as simple as looking at other types of designers, like graphic designers opposed to other interior designers.
Yeah, that's where I wanted to go completely, because you brought up other industries. So where would you look to if you were pitching this idea to me to change my interior design website? What kind of examples could you draw on that you might use to help me see the light?
Yeah, every industry has its strengths and weaknesses. I think the architect, interior design, construction industry is exceptional at collaborating with other disciplines, project management, especially long-term projects, and really, really good at nurturing relationships. Everyone in this industry seems to be a pro at putting together a referral strategy and executing it and nurturing relationships over the long game. And I think other industries can learn from the interior design industry about relationships. But other industries have other strengths that we can learn from. For example, the medical industry is really, really good at educating consumers or patients in their case through content. So like you'll find a lot of doctors or medical professionals, they'll have pamphlets and guides and educational material. The healthcare industry is also really good at making you pay for a diagnosis before giving you the treatment plan. In other words, if we transfer that to the interior design industry, you don't get the proposal for free. You pay for the consultation. We visit your job site, we assess, then we give you a plan, and that's all paid for. Just like when you go to a doctor, a dentist, a physiotherapist, you pay for the assessment. They do a 1-hour assessment or a 1-hour checkup, and then they give you the treatment plan or the diagnosis, right? So that's one example we can learn from the healthcare industry. We can also learn from the tech industry. They're really, really good at creating funnels and lead nurturing campaigns. They understand that people need a lot of touch points before you speak to them. And those touch points don't have to be in person. They could be, again, content. Another example would be, let's say, Hollywood. Hollywood is really, really good at building up suspense and anticipation, giving you teasers of a film in order to buy on a specific date, right? It was actually Hollywood that came up with this idea of, I don't know if you've ever heard it, that people say that you have to see an ad 7 times before purchasing. Hollywood came up with that. Hollywood came up with this theory that you have to see a movie ad 7 times before you'd actually go to the theater to buy a ticket. Those are some examples. I can give you more. But I'll stop.
So if we come back to the portfolio, the websites that you said designers should not be relying on, where you've just got beautiful pictures.
Right.
If I'm a homeowner and I go to visit a website of a designer like that, I can scan through the entire website, see these pictures, and I mean, there's a possibility that just I am struck by the awesomeness of the designs and I reach out and make a phone call right then and there. But I would assume more often than not, these are people who are in the collecting information phase, and they've probably got a million questions in their head. They don't even know all the things they don't know.
Right.
And if all you've got is beautiful pictures, how do you answer those questions?
Mm-hmm.
The homeowner might not even know they have.
Yeah.
Right. And I know, I mean, a lot of designers have an FAQ page with a list of 10 or 15 different questions that they think homeowners need to know. but that first visit to the website. So you're right. I guess there's going to need to be numerous touch points before someone is willing to, start that process.
Yeah, and the touch points don't have to happen all on the website. Like, I'll give you some stories or examples. We did a market research project for a client. They're a very high-end architect firm outside of Toronto. Their minimum fees are $100,000 to give you an idea of how high scale they are. And I say that not to brag, but I say that because sometimes I hear, well, we're too luxury to put ourselves online. Often not. Sometimes people think that if you're luxury, then it's tacky to be online, or that the consumer is not online, which is false. That's why I say this client's price point to be able to just show that this works for any price point. But anyways, we interviewed 19 of their clients. So we picked up the phone and we had a 20-minute conversation with 19 of their clients, asking them, how did you find this architect? Did you ask people? Did you Google online? And then when you found them, what were you thinking about? What questions did you have? What were you looking for? What was your impression of them online before you went in to meet them in person? And 80% of their clients found them through word of mouth, but 100% told us that they visited their website or their Instagram before booking a call. They went online to see them. And some of them, there was one in particular I remember. He was a GC. He works in construction. And so he knew about this architect because they're in the same industry. And he had followed him for years on social media before he bought his property and was ready to renovate. And he never thought about hiring this architect because he knew that this architect specialized in modern architecture. And he wasn't really sure he wanted modern architect for his own home. But there was one social media post that the architect put out on Instagram that was a modern twist. It was a mix between modern and traditional. And it was that post that got him thinking, oh, I wasn't considering him, but maybe I could consider him. And that post is what led him to go on the website and find that particular project. And luckily, this architect did tell the story. He had if you go on his website, he has his projects, and there's a story behind each one. He's even taken videos and he scanned his original drawings, and he really does a great job of telling the stories. And he read that, and it was that pushed him over the edge of booking a call. And mind you, this is someone that he knew personally already, but it was not on his radar to contact him. So yeah, it just goes to show how important it is to talk about your work, do it consistently, put yourself out there. Website is not enough. You got to use social media, email, all the different platforms, because what you do is very expensive. People need a lot of information. And not many people have bought they pay. How many times do people hire an architect or an interior designer in their lifetime? They need that education, and your digital presence is one way of educating them. But also, and this could be a whole other podcast, is once they inquire, right, your sales process needs to educate them. And that's why I referenced the healthcare example, because you can give them you can have all the content, but not everyone is going to read it. Some people will, but not everyone will. And you can pay for that. You can charge people to educate them through your sales process.
So website and Instagram, I would assume almost every interior designer has those two things, but you brought up email.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering how many interior designers that you've ever worked with or spoken with you feel use email to its fullest potential.
Okay. The way I feel about email is how I felt about websites, years ago. It's like I had very strong opinions and a vision for how the industry could use websites. but I didn't have enough examples until I started coming across like Zoe Feldman and Studio McGee's new websites. And I was using that and I'm saying, everyone, look at this, let's do the same thing. Now I have like all of our clients, I for every single client, I redo their service page and their portfolio section as per the recommendations I'm giving in this podcast. And it's easy, it's an easy sell. Now I'm on email newsletters. I'm trying to pitch email newsletters to clients and they're like, no, our peers are not doing that. And so I'm in the same spot. Now I have to create case studies or examples or look for industry leaders that's doing email well and then present it to them as a way to build trust. So I can only think of one. I have one interior designer who was like, you know what, I took your recommendations when it came to SEO. It's brought me so many results. I'm so sorry I was resistant in the beginning. Whatever you tell me now, I will do without hesitation. And so I told her email and she just started. So I don't have any like case studies, any stories I could tell you, but her name is Rebecca Merritt Design Co. And so if you want to like follow along, but she's got her niche quite down. So she does coastal interior design along the coast of South Florida. She knows her cities, the ones that she's targeting. So all of her social media and blog content is about coastal interior design. And she gets quite niche. Like I saw one of her blog posts is about how to choose windows that are resistant to saltwater spray when you're living by the coast. Like it's really niche like that. And so she's got this email newsletter and her goal is, obviously to be the go-to in coastal design, whether you're in Florida or not. She's trying to make this email newsletter applicable to people that are all across the U.S., like the coast of U.S. So I think it's a really effective tool to. She's being really broad with it. She wants to capture everyone, but I think that it's a really effective tool for referrals, nurturing past clients, industry relationships, like if you have relationships with vendors or contractors, or inquiries that are not quite ready yet and they need some time to make a decision. I think referrals are, I think the email newsletter is a great way to show people the projects that you're working on. It goes straight into their inbox, no algorithm between you and them. And you don't have to use keywords. You can write at your own liberty. Because again, there's no algorithm. You're not trying to rank on an inbox, although you don't want to use spam filters. I should say that maybe. And if you have a referral program, your email newsletter is a great place to put it. And I can tell a story. I've got tons of stories of this.
Yeah, so I love stories.
There's one interior designer, her name is Natasha from Common Good Studio, I think. I like the way she does her email newsletter, and I don't take credit for it. I'm just an admirer. She's at the bottom of her quarterly email newsletter. She has a section called If You Know, You Know. And what she does every quarter is she finds a chef in the city and collaborates with them. And she puts the picture of the chef and says to her email list, this quarter, our chef is Bob from whatever restaurant. If you refer a friend or family member to us, we will make a reservation for you at Bob's restaurant and I have a chance to meet him. So she's not giving you money, she's giving you an experience, which is something that especially in the residential space, like people appreciate. If you're designing for a wealthy consumer, they're probably not very motivated if you give them like a few $100s of a referral fee, but they would appreciate, they're probably more inclined to appreciate an experience like that. I've seen also, we have a client that tried that, it didn't work for some reason. This is another thing I've noticed, that now I'm talking about referrals over email, but it's interesting how referral strategies and incentives don't work in every market. I haven't quite cracked this down, but I've noticed that. And so for this client, she tried that, didn't work. And what she said to me was, I've noticed our clients they don't want to tell their friends and family about us because we're like their dirty little secret, and they don't want them, their friends to have the same designers. But they do support us. They want to see us grow, and they want us to see us accomplish our goals. And then I thought, oh, okay, what if you tell them what your goals were? And for example, this interior designer, she's in Washington, D.C., so she designs home in the suburbs in the city of D.C. I said, what if you told your clients that it is your goal for 2026 to design a home in Hawaii? Just one home in Hawaii. You tell them that, and you say, if you have any friends that, have a vacation home or a second home in Hawaii, please let me know, because that's my dream. That's my goal, to design one. And that way it's not a conflict of interest and they can feel like they're helping accomplish a goal with you. They can be in the ride. And that's something you can communicate, obviously in person, but you can also communicate it through an email list that is exclusively for your network.
That sounds pretty amazing. You're giving the former client an opportunity to do something amazing for somebody else, not something just regular, right? I want to jump back just a little bit about email specifically. I would assume that email has kind of an old-fashioned reputation, maybe, with designers.
I don't know. Maybe you can break it down for me. I don't quite get it. Oftentimes the objection I hear is, we don't want to bother people.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Like, I mean, I ignore, I'd say 99% of my emails, and
I think that's why. I think most people say that what I hear is, I barely read email newsletters. I find them.
Why do it?
But so who's going to read mine?
Well, I mean, to be honest, I read your newsletter, and there's a few I do. I mean, I follow a ton of different people, and you're right. I mean, and every once in a while I have to go through and unsubscribe from a bunch of different ones that I don't read. But I would assume also now, then, as you're helping them craft titles and subtitles and all of that kind of stuff, so that their open rates are higher.
Mm-hmm. I kind of see it. I mean, you can see the same thing about social media. There are some people that, like, I have one client who tells me, I'm not on social media. Like, I'm 57 years old and I have an Instagram account. I probably look at it 2 times a year. She just does not use social media. But email is her thing. And for someone else, it could be the opposite. Like, I think maybe if we think of it like, you're not don't try to expect everyone to see every social media post, every email newsletter, but you want to increase the chances that they're going to see something on a regular basis.
Right. Quite frequently, I've spoken with designers who they'll say they have somebody who reaches out to them, and they follow their process on trying to get the ball rolling towards signing a contract and starting a new project. But the person just doesn't respond. Like, they ghost them, they move on. And I would guess that when you're in regards to email, there would be a different process for people who are just approaching you, and what kind of email flow you could do with that versus established clients, repeat clients, and all that kind of stuff, right? Because if somebody's called, you've had a conversation with them, you think the conversation went well, and then they completely ghost you. Now you're like, well, how do I follow up with that? And email, to my mind, feels very easy, as opposed to getting on the phone call by calling them up every 2 months or 3 months. Hey, remember me? Right? Whereas email's a little easier.
Yeah, interesting point. I actually had something like this happen very, very recently. I think last week, a lead came through in the beginning of the year. I can't remember how she found us. I don't know if it was the interior design show or Google or what it was, but I remember she reached out in the beginning of the year. We had a discovery call. I sent a follow-up email, and then she just disappeared. She just didn't respond, and I was like, okay. And then in my sales software, I just put her as ghosted, and I just moved on. And then last week, she was on my email newsletter. I put every single person that inquires gets on my email list. And so I kind of moved on and forgot about her, but she was actually on my email list reading most of my emails on every week. So I was still on her mind or within her radar because of my email newsletters. And then last week she reached out and said, hey, Daniela, sorry I ghosted you earlier this year. I was really busy. I had a lot on my plate, but now I'm ready to pick this back up again. Can we move forward with that consultation? And I said, sure. And she paid the invoice for that consultation the same day. So yeah, I don't know. What do you take out of that when I tell that story?
Well, going back to what you said earlier about like having 7 touch points or whatever, right? So if she's been, whether she's looked at every single email newsletter you put out or just, here and there, something obviously pushed a button that she needed pushing, or maybe like she said, she was just super busy and now she's less busy, but whatever it was. But you weren't hopping on a phone call and pestering her personally. Like that feels very personal. But emails, there's a little bit of a lower barrier to entry maybe, and the newsletters are perfect, as opposed to you emailing her, like sending her a note saying, hey, just touching base with you. She just gets this newsletter and doesn't feel pressured, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I know some people would see that lead come back and be like, God, screwed up, like they didn't respond to. I don't know, I don't take those things personally, so yeah.
I was on a Discord chat with some big time AI nerds, and we were talking about social media, and with the amount of AI slop and fakes that are now showing up on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and all over the place, there are some people in the AI world, but also the social media world, that are worried that people are going to start backing off of the Instagrams of the world if you can no longer trust what is on there as being like human. And so they're legitimately concerned, and who knows how this all plays out. And what their belief is that people are going to kind of retreat to safe zones, right? I hate that word, safe spaces, but like your newsletter, if they know Daniela, and if that's an area where people can kind of congregate around for good, solid marketing information for interior designers, as opposed to, I can no longer trust social media.
Yeah.
So maybe AI, maybe email becomes like a much bigger thing than it is now. Maybe newsletters become a bigger thing, maybe, or communities where they can you can trust the information you're getting.
I think a lot of people go to Substack for that reason. They were kind of saturated with, overwhelmed with the amount of information on Instagram. So there are a few people that they like their work, they want to hear from them on a regular basis, and they join them on Substack, and then they can cut out all the noise. But then I also think these are trends. We go through these cycles of when we have more of a tolerance for social media and when we don't. And I've been hearing this for a really long time, where people go through these waves.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so I just brought up AI. I'm obsessed with it. I'm curious how you are using it in with your clients, if you are.
Yeah. So we use it almost at every phase. Some phases we use it more heavily than others. Okay, so in the very beginning stages, we're creating a strategy. So We have our regular interviews like we've always been doing. We interview the client about their brand, about their journey of starting their own business and how they do things differently. We ask them about their target customers, and then we'll also ask them for a list of the past 10 to 15 clients that they've worked for and what they did. We take all that data and we used to come up with like a target customer profile and a brand, like I said, a brand guidelines manually. We feed all that information, the transcripts and all that to ChatGPT, and it pumps it up for us. And then we create GBTs for each client. And oftentimes when we create content on behalf of that client, we've already fed it the transcripts, and we're able to create pretty good first drafts for social media captions and blog posts because we have that historical data saved. That, for example, is one we use ChatGPT internally. We also pay attention in our tracking. So we track in the early process of a project, we'll define or identify the keywords that we want to rank for. So let's say we have this one client that's in Brooklyn. They're interior designers and they do a lot of brownstone restorations. And so we'll come up with a list of keywords like interior designer Brooklyn or brownstone restoration Brooklyn, and different variations of that, right? Like interior designer, interior design firm, interior design studio, you know how it works. So we'll come up with a list. We put it in, we use a tool called SEMrush. We'll tell SEMrush the tools that we want to, the keywords we want to track. And then now in our reporting, not only are we trying to see how do you rank on Google Maps, on Google organic results, but we also use these tools to see how often you're being cited in Google AI or reviews or in LLMs like Perplexity or ChatGPT. So it's part of our reporting, and we try to, that's one of our goals, is try to be as cited as much as possible. Now, these reporting tools are not perfect. And that's why I always ask clients like to give us their version of the report. We can tell you how many website hits and keyword rankings you're getting, but it means nothing if you don't have any inquiries. So tell us how many inquiries you're getting. And so every client has a spreadsheet or a CRM, depending how invested they are. And we must have access to it. I want to see how many inquiries you were getting, and not only who the inquiries are, where they're located, what services did they inquire for, when did they inquire, but also how do they find you, and any notes that you can take. I'm so in awe. I've heard clients tell us they asked ChatGPT and we came up, and I'm like, wow, we've only been working on your site for 3 months and you're already like, it's just so fascinating. But I also will say, I'm going on a tangent again, it's still a minority. Like there's so much hype about AI. I would say most of our clients get about 100, like between 70 to 100 inquiries a year. And 1% of that comes from ChatGPT. The rest, the majority, still comes from social, Google, or word of mouth. Like ChatGPT is still a very small piece of the pie, which is a lot of people are surprised. Even I was surprised when I realized that when I crunched the numbers, because there's so much hype around it. And I guess that's a really a good reminder that we're very much in the early phases of the AI adoption curve.
Yeah, I tested before we got on. I did a little just test on my own, and when I searched for broad interior design topics, whether it was interior designer New York City or something along those lines, I would get results, AI results that were very similar to a Google search, where it's like, I know that name, I know that name, I know that. Now, if I got niche-y, like, brownstone, Brooklyn, heritage, and maybe a couple of other little points like that, suddenly it was completely different. On Google search, I was still getting a lot of the big names, but on the different more AI searches, I was getting names I'd never heard of.
Right.
And I was like, well, that's pretty cool, right? Like that, and that show, because I mean, that person that's showing up at number 2 now on a ChatGPT search, right? They're on page 6 of a Google search, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I wanted to come back to your clients specifically. So, like we said, we both enjoy stories, and that's how humans consume things better than just straight facts. Um, Say in the past year, because I have seen a lot of designers say that this year's been a slower year, and I don't know how much of that's tied to tariffs or the general feeling of like, I don't want to jump into an expensive renovation right now until I know what's going on. What does the
Mm-hmm.
past year look like for your clients?
Yeah. I got this question yesterday actually, and I was thinking about it I went walk home. Um, okay, my perspective is a little biased because obviously if someone is reaching out and inquiring about our services, it means that they have a bit of money put aside for growth, which means that they're doing reasonably well. So if you're not doing well, I'm probably not talking to you. And I feel like I don't have a full picture of what the industry is like. So I just want to just use that preface by saying that I'm unbiased. But I can think of about 5 firms that I spoke to this year. They didn't end up being, oh, I think some of them paid for a consultation, but they didn't end up signing on with a long-term project with us. And they came to us saying that they were struggling. And I noticed some patterns with these 5 firms. Many of them have been around for 7, 8, even 10 years. They've gotten this far because they built their business on word of mouth, friends and family, relationships with realtors, relationships. They invest in marketing for very like punctual projects. What I mean by that is like they'll redo their brand or their website for 3 months, or they'll hire a PR consultant to help them get in a few magazines or apply for awards. It's like they do marketing in a very specific project, but not on a consistent basis. So because of those small investments that they've made over the years, they look good from the outside. Like the website is beautiful. The projects are professionally photographed. But then behind the scenes, they're not doing any consistent business development. They're not consistently networking, consistently doing social media. 1 month they might put up 4 social media posts, and another month they completely skip it. And that lack of consistency, they never had to be consistent because they were doing so well with word of mouth. Another thing I noticed is that they will tell me they started to notice the signs in 2022 or 2023, and now it's the worst. So the ones I only have a sample of like 5. I don't know if this is a whole industry, but the people that are saying that this year has been really hard, it's not just this year. It's been like this for a few years that they're really feeling it because they haven't done much to respond. And then the ones that are doing well, they will tell me that, things are a little bit slower. People take a little bit longer to make decisions and they have to follow up a little bit more, but they're still doing well. And I notice it's because they are consistent with their marketing or their business development efforts. I will say another thing I've noticed, the ones that are doing well, I've noticed they not only are they consistent with their marketing, but they also have adapted their services. Like they're open to doing small projects. They have a few clients this year launched what they call like a design day. So it's like a virtual consultation. They offer that. Some of them are on the expert. I even have one client, he's an architect, and he's selling pre-made blueprints on Etsy for just
Wow.
under $1,000. So I don't know. I think Of course, the economy is difficult, but there are always fluctuations in business. There's like that's always been around, and I think the ones that are succeeding despite the economic challenges are the ones that are adaptable. They adapt to the market. They're adapting their services, and they're consistent with their business development.
Right, for sure. Okay. So I'm an interior designer, and I've watched this podcast, and I am completely sold. I want to reach out to you and discuss having you help me, whether it's just fix my website or take on every little thing. What can you do for me?
How can we work together, you mean?
Exactly.
We can work together in 3 different capacities, depending what your budget is, to be honest, and how much support you need. So the easiest is our workshops. We just this month, we have rolled out a calendar of bi-monthly workshops, and they start as little as $50, and they're small groups of between 12 to 50 people. That's one. The other, we could do a one-time consultation. It's 1 hour long, and we audit your entire online presence and give you a blueprint, a 12-month marketing plan out of that consultation. And then if you need help executing that 12-month plan, then you can hire our team, our agency, and that price, it ranges between $3,000 to $5,000 a month.
Okay. How much was it for the second plan? The
Consultation is $800.
Okay. All right. Well, that all sounds very good. I mean, I'm going to an interior designer event on the weekend, and hopefully I'll spread the word a little bit for you.
Amazing. Well, which event is that?
It's actually out in Cambridge. I'm giving a talk on artificial intelligence for interior designers.
Incredible.
And well, it's a really entry level thing where there's still so much fear and confusion around it. I just want to kind of get rid of that and let them have a clear idea of what is actually happening, and how their skill set is unlike anything, the brand of AI we have now, the large language model, that it cannot replicate what interior designers do. There's other versions of AI that have been studied over the past 20 years that try to kind of mimic those kind of things in a better way. But what we've got right now, interior designers, to my mind, and I speak on a daily basis with people who understand this at a much more granular and deep level, they're like, no, that level of expertise is what's going to make the difference for you. And the same thing with you in marketing, right? I mean, you can go on ChatGPT and ask very detailed questions about how to market your interior design business, but I guarantee the results you're going to get back are going to be so much less than what you would have learned just by listening to this podcast, like for sure.
It's a great tool, but yeah, it's a personal experience is hard to beat.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, maybe in 50 years we're talking something different, but not today.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting. I'm curious to hear how that goes for you.
Me too. It's the first one I've done in person. It's a little.
Oh, wow. Well, that's exciting.
Okay. I'll tell you what, I really, really appreciate you coming on again, and hopefully we can kind of, circle back again in a few months.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. It means a lot to me.
You too. Thank you.
That wraps up my conversation with Daniela Furtado about why your beautiful website needs more than just an amazing portfolio to attract new clients. During our chat, Daniela made it clear that the designers building thriving practices aren't relying on word of mouth anymore. They're being strategic about SEO, portfolio storytelling, and consistent content. If you found this episode valuable, I would really appreciate if you could leave a review and subscribe. Just like Google hunts for keywords before recommending your website to future clients, the podcast algorithms like to see reviews and subscriptions before they'll show me any love. So if you could leave me a 6-star review and hit that subscribe button, I will be forever grateful. In the next podcast episode, I'm going to bring you something new, a solo episode focused on how you can actually make AI work in your business right now. Stay tuned.